this video called Spirit Behind the SDA Church. Is it a credible source of information, or is it a video full of lies? What about the Ellen White quotes they say are accurate from SDA sources? Do they exist, or are they misquoting liars? Da 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 da. Enjoy this melody and go watch some SpongeBob. Hello everyone out there on YouTube, this is Spoke777. Hope you enjoyed the melody. Also, I would recommend going to the website called pickle-publishing.com and reading the book called The Spirit Behind the SDA Church, a critique, which he basically talks about the same information I'm going to be talking about. So, enjoy this video because you will see the information yourself if you don't feel like reading. But if you feel like reading, read the book, and then you don't have to watch my video series. Alright, have a good day, and God bless.
But when Christ did not return when Miller predicted, she dissolved into tears and prayers and remained, as she said, in this hopeless condition for months.
Hello everyone out there. I'm going to look up this Ellen G. White quote. In this hopeless condition for months. And there you go, you can see it all there. Get rid of that space, and now let's look it up. Does not exist. There is no exact quote in this hopeless condition for months. Okay, maybe if I take away the parentheses I'll find something. Well, there practically is no exact quote. In fact, if you look up a lot of these quotes, they don't fit the time frame of like the 1840s. James White is one who's being talked about being in a hopeless condition after his stroke. So, it sort of is a disingenuous quote this guy gave. He basically lied. Now, so, in trying to support their statement that Ellen White was in a hopeless condition for months after Jesus didn't return in 1844, they mention this passage here in Live Sketches, page 293 of the 1880 edition. Now, if you look here at page 293, she talks about the Lord meeting with his people. Now, look at here. A covered message was given me for Sister Pierce. The following is their statement. Well, apparently this next statement is not even about Ellen White, but about Pierce. And look at the quote here. She's quoting somebody else, and you realize there is no exact phrase for hopeless condition for months, and it's about somebody else, not Ellen White. So that shows to you that their quote is inaccurate and false. So it's about Amira Pierce, not Ellen White. And that's what the supposed proof they have to say, which isn't proof at all. It's just a lie. Also, to speculate that when Ellen White was writing about somebody else, that she was truly writing about herself is speculation and is not evidence. So you can't say something, she was in this hopeless condition for months, as a cold hard fact of a quote that does not exist, which if you're trying to say it's a paraphrase, but the way you said in her own words, in this hopeless condition for months, that doesn't sound like a paraphrase. Those are her own words. It should be word for word identical, but it is not. And this shows you the disingenuousness of the person who said this. It's just, why? I mean, do you take me for a fool or something?
She had a vision from God, the first of many.
I have seen that the 1843 chart was directed by the hand of the Lord, and that it should not be altered, that the figures were as He wanted them, that His hand was over and hid a mistake in some of the figures.
Rather than admit that she was in error, Ellen Harmon claimed that God was the one who had made the mistake and had covered it up himself. Ellen's controversial vision forced the readjustment of many Adventist dates and doctrines. Even though the 1843 date had now been adjusted to 1844, it was still in error. Nevertheless, the 1840...
Hello out there, you just heard that Ellen White's first vision has to do with the chart. Well, was this Ellen White's first vision? In fact, it is not her first vision, because this vision is talked about in early writings occurring in September 23 of 1850. Ellen White's first vision was in 1844, in December of that year. And it was about the journeys of the Advent people. It was about a pathway and people walking on it and seeing Christ at the other end and light emanating from him. The chart with numbers and figures was not even mentioned. So apparently the guy who said that didn't say the truth. Now, what you do understand from this quote is that there's an ellipsis, information missing. So, without that information, it can sound like as if what they're saying in the video is true, but it is baseless. For example, if I take off the end of a sentence, it changes everything. And it really does, because listen to what it says. So that none could see it until his hand was removed. That is in the ellipsis. So, there was a mistake. It does not say that God made the mistake. She did not blame God for a mistake. No, she said that God permitted a mistake, and that God then later showed them their mistake. For example, did you know that the early Adventists believed that the Sabbath began and ended at 6 p.m., not realizing that it actually began and ended at sundown? But God allowed that mistake. Why? He wants to see what kind of people you really are, and it's to test you, more than likely. She never said that God made the mistake. I'm going to reiterate that. And here's the whole quote. I saying that the 1843 chart was directed by the hand of the Lord, and that it should not be altered, that the figures were as he wanted them, that his hand was over and hid a mistake in some of the figures, so that none could see it until his hand was removed. So, my question for you is, haven't you ever made a mistake? Why didn't God show you to it earlier? And because God didn't show it to you, does that mean that God made the mistake? Because God didn't write that chart. He allowed the chart. He's like, William Miller wrote this chart, but I'm going to leave it as it is. Yeah, there's a mistake. I could correct there and be a bit of a nuisance, like a hawk over a dead corpse waiting for it to die, which practically is dead, but you get the point. Nobody likes it when a teacher hovers over them, waiting for every little mistake that they make and constantly correcting them. Maybe over your writing, maybe over your penmanship when you're doing math, and over every little detail of basic math when you're trying to do higher level math such as differential equations. It can get annoying as could be. You get the main concept, and then they may show, yeah, there's a little error here. But I didn't show this till after you completed everything. And it's the same idea. Otherwise you kind of look annoying. And we do realize there is no year zero. So, and the disciples didn't understand how Christ would come. So, take the time to actually read this. Just pause it and make sure you can see all the information in these points, so you can understand. And there's no evidence that Ellen ever said that God made a mistake. So, God never made the mistake. God's not the one who came up with the numbers. People came up with the numbers. They just didn't realize there's no year zero. Year zero is pretty much an asymptote. You can never reach it. You can close to it, but you never do. Get to the other side. You could say maybe there's a general limit and it's going to, year 1 of AD instead of 0. So you get the point. That they're just misquoting this quotation, so it makes it a little bit less legitimate. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and this is Spoke 777, and you've seen 2 problems with 2 quotes that they have. And this information is at pickle-publishing.com, and you can see the whole thing. Just pause it here, and pause it here. You've probably seen it again already, and could go there real quick if you would. But pickle-publishing.com. You can look up the legitimacy of the Ellen White quotes. To be continued.